Hi, welcome to my new series. In this series, I will be reading a Reddit story. I found this on Reddit about basically a creepypasta in The Sims. So here we go. So this happened while I was playing The Sims 4. Okay, so this just happened a few days ago. I had to write about it or it'll never get off my mind. First, I'd like to say that I'm 17 years old. I bought Sims 4 about a month ago because I played one of the Sims games when I was a young kid. My sister had the game, so whenever I could get a turn, I would hop on and mess around with her Sims family. When I saw the newest game was on sale, I decided to get it, even though I haven't played many games since my younger years. Soon enough, I fell into the dark hole of being completely engrossed by it. In 1 month, I logged over 80 hours, so it's safe to say that I was fully addicted. Today, though, was quite a bit different. So I was on the third generation of my first family with two parents, three kids, and one of their friends living in one house. The family based off my own, even in our own house. That day I threw a social party so the father could get more friends, essentially opening my house to strangers, mainly neighbors. The party was going well enough when I noticed an NPC that I hadn't seen before. He was walking with his hands in his pockets of his dark jacket, and there was something strange outlined in his jean pockets. As he walked through the house, he never turned towards the camera, and whenever I would turn the camera around him, he would turn with it, keeping his back to me. He never actually interacted with the other partygoers, but he walked through every room of the house while everyone else was socializing, drinking, and playing games. Towards the end of the party, the mysterious NPC left the house and walked down the road, back still turned towards the camera. Hey,
What are you doing?
I'm recording a video.
Just reading a fucking story?
Uh-huh.
Why?
Because I think the story's interesting. I eventually put him out of my mind and continued with the family as the day came to an end. As the children began to go to bed, the friends were out of the house and the mother was doing yoga on the second floor of the house. How long is this story? I clicked on the father, allowing me to see his moods and his actions. There was a strange icon where his actions were that looked like a bleeding question mark, something that never came up before. He looked around the house, confused, and began to walk towards the window near the front door. As he peered out, he cupped his hands near his eyes and against the window to get a better look. It looked like he saw something, so I moved my camera to look myself. At the door was a dark figure. At the door was a dark figure peering through the window at the father. He wore a dark jacket, the same NPC from the party earlier. And let me point out that in the game, all the people in the game, they are not called NPCs. They are not non-playable characters. Every person in The Sims is a playable character. So why is this person calling this Sim an NPC? Anyway, I clicked the father and tried to cancel the most recent action, which was to open the door. For whatever reason, I was seriously nervous about what was happening. I was clicking furiously at this point, trying to get him to quit what he was doing, but it was too late. He opened the door and the dark figure stood there and greeted the father. What happened next I still see in my head with perfect clarity. The NPC reached out to shake the father's hand, and as they shook, his other hand reached back to his pocket and slid out a knife. He pulled the father towards him, and thus pulling him into the knife, and wrenched the knife back out. The father almost comically danced around in that spot, holding his hands to where the knife slid in, and bent over in pain. I would have laughed if I wasn't so confused. He slid down in the door frame and sat there crying out. Just then the NPC got up the stairs and into the yoga room where the mother was. He grabbed her from behind with his arm around her head, yanking it back. She began kicking and tried to scream, but his arm was covering her mouth. As she clawed uselessly at his arms, he slowly pulled the blade across her neck, opening a dark red gash from one side to the other. Her panic clawing began to slow until her arms just went down to her sides and her legs gave out. He laid her down almost gently before wiping the blood off the blade on her leg. At this point, I was just sitting back and watching her. I had no control over the new NPC, and the camera was automatically following him through the house. I kept telling myself this had to be some creepy, disgusting script event, but I wasn't even convincing myself. This just wasn't that kind of game. He began towards the kids' room, where the son and 2 daughters were still asleep. He silently opened the door and let himself in, shutting it behind him. He went to the boy, picked up one of the pillows from the floor, and gently pushed it onto his face. The boy barely struggled, uselessly pawing at the man's arm before he stopped moving. The girls on the other side of the large room waking after hearing the commotion. As they slipped out of bed, the man moved to block the door. As the first girl approached him, he slapped her across the face with the back of his hand, driving her to the ground, while the second daughter began to scream. He moved towards the second daughter, while out of his jacket he drew a length of rope. He tackled her to the ground and got on top of her, tying her hands behind her back. He then went back to the first girl, still dazed on the floor, put one hand on either side of her head, and jerked violently to the side. Hey! I'm recording here. The sound of her neck cracking was the worst part for me. I can still hear it. It's been playing over and over in my head ever since this happened. He laid her aside and moved to the second girl, who managed to sit up and was crying and shaking violently. I saw his hand working at his belt, pulling it loose, when I shut off the computer. I was sickened, trembling, and crying all at the same time. I put the computer down and sat there in the darkness of my room that I shared with my siblings. I didn't sleep that night, not truly, though I may have dozed off for a few minutes here and there. All I dreamed of was the sound of the first girl's neck, and what he would have done to the second girl had I not shut it off. I would have given more details as to what happened, but I really can't take long in writing this. My family is hosting a party in a few hours, so I really need to go help set up. If anyone has any idea as to what actually happened, let me know. I couldn't find anything like this when I searched in on Google. Sounds like a guy's going to come to the party, walk around the house, and then come back and kill everyone. Okay, well, that was the story. So this happened while I was playing The Sims 4. I hope you enjoyed it. This was posted by Flamingo Shame. Well, I hope you enjoyed my reading of the story. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see y'all guys in the next video. Bye!